Well, I hope you enjoyed that early league action because the Cup well and truly takes over now. Yes, welcome along to this week's Women's Football Chat. My name is Chris Gadsby. I'm here every Thursday at 6 p.m, bringing you the very latest from the third and fourth tiers of women's football here in England. This is the show dedicated to the FA Women's National League and the 6 divisions within it. Plenty to go through on this week's show. But yes, the Cup is well and truly taking over. You might just be able to make out there on the board behind me that in the next 7 weeks, we have 4 rounds of Cup action to bring you. Now, granted, not every team is going to be in every single one of those, but we've got the preliminary round of the League Cup and Plate. We've got the first round of the League Cup and Plate. We've got the third qualifying round for the Women's FA Cup, where the Tier 4 teams come in to the competition. And then we've got the second round of the League Cup and Plate. And then right after that, we've then got the first round proper of the FA Cup. It really starts to kick up. And of course, County Cups, third Sunday of every month, they're starting to kick off as well now. So we got some league games in early. They are now going to start settling down. But yes, plenty to go through on this week's show. Some of it good, some of it bad. We're going to start though with a piece of news from this week, and that is James Lally has joined Southampton Women's as the club's first team manager. And they've finally started to get their season underway. So he has moved from Abingdon United, who have said that they would like to thank him for his short time with us and wish him all the best in his new appointment as manager of Southampton Women's. What a great opportunity for him to take. And he's getting straight down to it with Southampton Women's and getting a good start to his time with them. But we will get on to that later on in the show. So we've got that. We've also had the Manager of the Month voting is open for the FA Women's National League, although I believe it is already closed. Okay, so we have had the voting for the Manager of the Month. So the nominees, not that you can do anything with this now, but we'll go through it anyway. So in the Northern Premier, sorry, not in the Northern Premier Division, in Tier 3 in the Premier Division, Abby Britton of Exeter City, Lee Birch of Rugby Borough, Joe Sheehan of Ipswich Town and Tom Davies of Cheltenham Town. Now, have seen on social media quite a bit of, well, naturally some people unhappy that certain people have been missed out. In Division 1, Charlie Bill of Rail Bedford, Carl Watson of Moneyfields, Tash Tesgil of Leafield Athletic and Glenn Preston of Huddersfield Town. Now, those who have been watching the show for a while will remember that I'm part of the panel that helps to choose the shortlist. So I'm in a very strong position to be able to explain some of the reasoning behind the picks and why some people are annoyed with some people being missed off. I think it's really important to make clear and to remember that even though the voting and the shortlist was announced this week, it doesn't include everything that has happened in the FAWNL so far. This is Manager of the Month for August, which only covers the opening 2 league games. And also the cup competitions, therefore, i.e. the determining round of the League Cup, are not taken into consideration. It is league only. So you are in a situation there, particularly for August, the panel are trying to pick 4 from each tier, where you only have the first 2 games to go off. Now, I can fully get the reasoning of people like wanting, well, how come Cheadle Town, who have just got promoted, they're second in the table, don't get a nomination? Well, it's because in the opening, in August only, excluding the Cup, it was a loss and a win. And particularly in Tier 4, there were 11 sides that won both of their league games in August. And even then, you've got to narrow 11 down to 4. So inevitably, some people will miss out. Just because they don't make the shortlist doesn't mean they're not recognised and it's not debated thoroughly. So that is, I think it didn't help this time around that I can remember last year an article came out with the nominations to explain why each one was picked, and that didn't happen this time, which I think has led to some of the confusion and annoyance in there. And I think it's one of those, I totally get it when you don't have all of the information and you don't understand why what has happened, then I totally understand the frustration. So hopefully that will help to explain a bit about why some of the decisions were made, and particularly this month it was so difficult because, as I said, you've got 11 teams that all went 2 for 2 and you've got to narrow it down to 4, and you end up debating, okay, who are we valuing goals scored a lot more than clean sheets, or are clean sheets more important? What's the difficulty of the fixtures? Well, they're only perceived difficulties at this point in the season because we've only played 2 games. And so if you end up with 2 very difficult fixtures, you could end up bottom when actually come Christmas time you could be 4th. And so saying, oh, well, they shouldn't be picked because, look, they played the team who were bottom, but the team who were bottom actually played the 2 hardest teams in the league to start the season. So it is extremely difficult. And what I think you have to remember is that this panel, which is independent of the league, we should really point that out as well, all really know the league and are all coming at it, as I said, independent and neutral. And the comments that are seen online, of course, have some level of bias behind them. However great they are, it could just be a little bit of bias. It could be huge bias if you're actually involved with a club that didn't get picked. So I think it is important to remember that. Hopefully next month there will be an article that comes out with the nominations that explains why each nomination has been picked. So that's the manager of the month. We wait to see who wins that one, essentially, because as I said, voting is now closed, and see who gets the first manager of the month of the season. There's a couple of other bits to go through, but I'll go through those as and when we get to them, I think, over the course of the show, because they are tied into other elements of the show this week. So it makes more sense, rather than spending 20-25 minutes at the start just talking about various bits and pieces. We'll go through it as and when we get to it. So we'll start then with the Northern Premier Division, with results that, I'll be honest, I didn't really expect, kind of right the way through the league, really. We'll start then, Burnley against Wolverhampton Wanderers. Amber Hughes with the only goal of the game here for Wolves, and that kind of goes again back to what I was saying earlier on this season, and I'll make more on that point when we finish going through all of these fixtures. Halifax 0, Derby County 0. Hull City 2, Liverpool Feds 4. So Kirsty Hunt and Ellie Tanser with the goals for Hull City. 2 for Rosie Kinvig, 1 for Emma Johnson and 1 for Katie Anderson. All in time order there, 8, 58, 65 and 67 for Liverpool Feds. Good away win for them. 9-0 Forest beat Stourbridge. You remember on the opening day of last season, Forest beat Stourbridge by 7-0. It's gone up to 9. A hat-trick for Sophie Domingo, 47, 56 and 85. 1 for Molly Green, 37. 1 for Nat Johnson in the 30th. 1 for Charlie Wellings in the 14th. 1 for Holly Manders in the 71st. And 2 for Mel Johnson, 83rd and 88th. So 9-0 Forest beating Stourbridge. Rugby Borough losing at home to Stoke by 2-1. All the goals coming very early in this game. Tamara Wilcock in the 2nd and the 8th for Stoke, and then Ebony Wiseman in the 8th for Rugby. So all the scoring done in the first 10 minutes of that game. And West Bromwich Albion 4, Sporting Cows 0. Hannah George, Simran Jamat, Marley Rose Andrews and Phoebe Warner with the goals for West Brom. So if we have a look at the Northern table, you'll see Nottingham Forest are at the top, 3 points clear of Rugby Borough and Burnley and Wolves. West Brom in 5th, Derby County 6th, Liverpool Feds in 7th, all on 7 points. Stoke in 8th on 6, Hull 9th, Halifax 10th, and then Stourbridge and Sporting Cows are yet to get off the mark. But I said this a few weeks ago in that I think the biggest danger to Forest, or the biggest thing probably benefiting Forest in their quest to get into the Championship, is that I said I thought the teams trying to chase them would take points away from each other and leave Forest out front. And we get to this week. Last week, Forest put 6 past Wolves. This week, Wolves beat Burnley, take 3 points away from them. Forest have already beaten Stoke away from home. Stoke go away to Rugby and win by 2-1. So already Forest are 3 points clear at the top of the table in mid-September, and with a goal difference that is already 9 better than Rugby's, 10 better than Burnley's, and feels like it could be a bit of an extra point already. And with Burnley at home this weekend for Forest, and then Rugby away in that midweek in the last week of September. If Forest can win both of those games, they're already going to be at least 6 points clear of those two sides. See what Wolves do. And it's already looking like it's a very big gap, and Forest have, for want of a better phrase, overcome the difficult month at the start of the season. As long as Forest keep doing what they're doing, it's going to be difficult for teams to catch them. Now, granted, Forest at some point this season will drop points. Newcastle did. Just because you're fully pro doesn't mean you're going to win 22 out of 22. They will drop points somewhere. What's key for Forest is making sure they don't drop stupid points. For example, throwing one out away at Hull or away at Halifax, and making sure they get the job done. But I think the Burnley game this weekend for Forest is another big one, to put themselves 6 clear of teams that are chasing them already at this point in the season. And if these teams, if the Rugby, the Burnleys, the Wolves of this league keep taking points off each other, then it's going to be very difficult to catch Forest. The only analogy I can think of, and it doesn't work in football, but you'll see where I'm getting at, is you almost get the impression that the only way to catch Forest is for all the teams to work together to bring them back. Like you do in cycling, if you're trying to catch somebody out in front, everybody takes turns at the front so you can go faster while everyone gets some recovery in to catch Forest. You would almost need everybody to put all their energy into, I don't know, getting Wolves up to Forest so that Wolves can give it a go. But why would you do that? Because it doesn't work. It's not a team game between teams in the league. So they're, of course, all going to try and just hope that Forest slip up. Yeah, Sporting Cows are bottom of the table. Stourbridge, second bottom, still yet to get off the mark. Halifax with just a point. That's what they got this week at home to Derby. And so I think the mid table is very tight. It'll be interesting to see. I think the end of September is crucial for what happens at the top. The bottom, I think, could go a long way deep into the season. Right, Southern Premier Division. Good point for AFC Wimbledon, drawing 0-0 with Oxford United. And Wimbledon have been given in the plate a walkover against Arsenal Academy. They were supposed to play a preliminary round tie this weekend, and Arsenal have pulled out. Billericay Town 2, Cheltenham Town 1. 2 for Jessica Francis-Weir for Billericay Town puts them ahead of Cheltenham Town. Una Liu, the only goal for the visitors. Gwalia United really losing 3 points, to be honest, against Exeter City. They were 2-0 up in this game. Kylie Nolan in the 19th minute, Eleanor Cole in the 50th. They were 2-0 up on the hour mark. Georgie Marie Barber Gresham gets one back on 63 minutes, but then Exeter never say die. Sophie Gillies in the 80th minute and Sarah Stacey in the 89th minute turns that game around as Exeter come from 2-0 down to win 3-2. Ipswich convincing 5-0 winners over Lewis. Lucy O'Brien 22nd minute, Maisie Barker 42nd, Angela Addison 74th, Sophie Peskett in the 89th and Ella Rutherford in the 94th. Same scoreline for Hashtag United away at Plymouth. Sophie Bajent in the 21st minute, 2 for Holly Turner in the 28th and the 48th. Callie Balfour in the 78th minute and Macy Nichols in the 87th minute. Me and Hashtag get 3 points there, and a very convincing 8-0 win for Watford. Goals for Elkie Bower, 2 for Gemma Davison, 1 for Florence Fife, Jessie Gale, Coral Jade Hines, Lashante Paul, and then there was 1 own goal in that as well. Southern table then, Exeter City still leading the way over Ipswich Town on goal difference only. Hashtag United in third on 9 points, so they are just 1 point back now. Watford and Oxford United are still within 1 win of the top of the table. Cheltenham Billericay Town 6th and 7th, Wimbledon in 8th, Plymouth and Gwalia United on 3 points each in 9th and 10th. Lewis got a couple of draws earlier this season, they're in 11th, and MK Dons no points yet and a minus 24 goal difference from their 4 games so far. So it's not been a great start for MK Dons, safe to say, but it is staying quite tight at the top. I think the Southern Premier Division race could be a really interesting one with Exeter, Ipswich, Hashtag, Watford, Oxford. They're all still within 3 points. Yes, the goal difference kind of favours the likes of the Exeter and Ipswich at the moment, but over the course of the season, you would think that that's kind of going to balance out a bit when the likes of Exeter put 7 past MK Dons. Well, when the likes of Watford did that, they shoved their goal difference up there to 7. When Oxford get the opportunity to play MK Dons, are they going to do a similar sort of thing? Hashtag haven't played them yet. Ipswich haven't played them yet. So I think the top of the Southern Premier Division could be a really interesting one to watch throughout the course of this season, and hopefully we get some really close title races, because the last thing you want is everything to be done and dusted by mid-March. Right, let's move through then into Tier 4 with Division 1 Midlands. Loughborough Lightning beating Lincoln United by 3-0, 2 for Jessica Collier and 1 for Sarah Woodburn here, as Loughborough Lightning continue their perfect start to the season. Notts County still haven't got their lineup up on full time yet. Should have been up by now, so we can't give you the 2 goals that they scored either. But Northampton Town, a hat-trick for Jade Bell, 1 for Kimberly Farrow, 1 for Bianca Lutman, 1 for Alex Mills and 1 for Ellie Aston. is Northampton Town's 7. Peterborough United narrowly beating Boldmere St Michael's by 2-1. Now, Boldmere St Michael's, I'm going to have to try and remember this because they haven't got it on full time, and it wasn't on their Twitter, it was on Peterborough's Twitter when I was doing my stats book. I'll say Alima Abdallah with the only goal for Boldmere St Michael's, Tara Kirk with one for Peterborough United, and then Evie Driscoll King in the 87th minute with the goal for Peterborough United to give them all 3 points. Sutton Coldfield Town 4, Lincoln City 0. Abby Bevan in the 20th and the 35th minute, Lauren DeCasto in the 73rd minute, and Phoebe Hopwood in the 84th minute. So a big win there for Sutton Coldfield Town over Lincoln City. And then we've got the 2 late kickoffs of Leaford Athletic 4, Worcester City 1, a hat-trick for Hannah Fishwick for Leafield Athletic, and 1 for Abby Cowie in the 43rd minute. Comfortably put them past the newly promoted side. Shona Baldwin with the only goal for Worcester. And then finally, Solihull Moors 0, Barnsley Women 2, Jodie McCowsher and Rebecca Ward with the goals for Barnsley Women's. What that means for the Midlands table is that Loughborough Lightning and Peterborough United are still at the top. They have their perfect 4 for 4, and they are a game ahead now of Northampton Town and Leafield Athletic, who both also picked up wins this weekend. Sutton Coldfield Town and Notts County in 5th and 6th. Solihull Moors, Lincoln United, Barnsley Women's and Boldmere St Michael's are 4 teams all on 4 points. And then Worcester City and Lincoln City, the 2 sides in the relegation zone with a goal difference that works against them. And it's already a 2-game gap to get that back up. So hopefully they can start to pick up some points soon, because the last thing we want, as I just alluded to there in the Southern Premier Division, is everything to be done and dusted very early on. With those 2 sides going down into Tier 5. Let's move through then into Division 1 North, where AFC Fylde got a good 3-0 win over Stockport County. Isabel Binks, Katie Folan and Yelena Karabot with the goals for AFC Fylde here. So they win by 3-0. And then another really good win for Cheadle Town Stingers, winning by 4-2 against Durham Sestra. Jessica Gillen in the 23rd and the 76th, Harriet Horton in the 71st, and Imogen Portas Williams in the 49th, with the goals for Cheadle Town Stingers. Rachel Bell in the 47th minute, Anna Salisbury in the 74th minute with the goals for Durham Sestra. But another very good win for Cheadle Town Stingers. Chorley beating Huddersfield Town by 1-0, an opening minute goal for Millie Fitzpatrick for Chorley, and then they hung on to that for the rest of the game. Doncaster Rovers Bells 3, Barnsley 2, probably one of the better games in the division this weekend. Now we are missing one of the Barnsley women's goals off the system. I did look up who it was, and I will admit off the top of my head I cannot remember. I will see for you off my big stats book if I can figure it out who it was. But yeah, we're missing that as well from Division 1 North. Charlie Evans with the other goal for Barnsley. There we go. Stats book comes in handy. So Charlie Evans with the first goal for Barnsley. Doncaster Rovers Bells, Jasmine Saxon in the 45th minute, Lucy Farrow 70th and 78th. Ruby Jex Oldfield got one back for Barnes in the 89th minute. They just were not able to get the equaliser that they needed in that game. Leeds United 2, Middlesbrough 3. Leanna Giles, Lauren Robson and Jessica Metz with the goals for Middlesbrough. Amy Woodruff had scored 2 in the first half for Leeds United, but they ultimately end up losing that game in a 5-goal thriller. And the same scoreline for York City, winning away at Norton Stockton Ancients. A 4th minute opener for Summer Pally. for York City. Equaliser for Bianca Owens in the 43rd minute. They go in at half-time level, but then 2 goals to Katie Astill, 56th and 69th minute, put York City 3-1 in front. And although Chloe West got one back with 5 minutes to go for Norton Stockton Ancients, didn't prove to be enough. And they don't get anything from their home game against York City. Table then, that win for York City has put them outside of the relegation zone. They are now up to 10th with 3 points. That's their first win in the season. At the top, it's Middlesbrough, who are point clear of Cheadletown Stingers and Chorley. Durham Sestra, Huddersfield Town, both on 7 points in 4th and 5th. Doncaster Rovers Bells in 6th. And then a trio of teams on 4 points. Fylde, Leeds United and Stockport County. Barnsley and Norton Stockton Ancients with 2 draws each so far this season, but no wins to their name. So they are just 1 point away from safety as it stands at the moment. Division 1 South East results then. Some higher scoring games in this division, but not the highest scoring over the course of the all 6 of them. Actonians 4, Queen's Park Rangers 0. Goals here. Dianor in the 4th minute put Actonians ahead early on, and Amber Dredge doubled the advantage before half time. Then in the second half, Amina Hanif and Merla Ling in the 84th minute made it 4-0 to Queen's Park Rangers. Norwich City continuing their very strong start to the season. A hat-trick for Lauren Hales, 2 for Ellie Smith and 1 for Natasha Snelling put them a long way past Ashford Town. Cheshire United 1, AFC Sudbury 2. Close game here. Megan Edwards and Alex Penny with the goals for the victorious AFC Sudbury. Natalia Makowska, the only goal for Cheshire United. That one scored in the 19th minute. 7-goal thriller, London Bees against Dulwich Hamlet. 4-3, London Bees come out on top in this game. Samantha Gabion in the... Millie Isherwood had put London Bees in front in the 5th minute. Then Gabion in the 14th minute made it 2-0. Lily Price gets one back for Dulwich Hamlet on the 18th minute to make it 2-1. And then they equalise right after half-time. Martha Goddard in the 47th minute makes it 2-2. Rebecca Wozniak in the 61st minute, 3-2 to London Bees. Morgan Searle in the 78th minute, 3-3. But before Isherwood gets her second of the game in the 80th minute to make it 4-3 to London Bees. And they hold on for all 3 points in that one. So big result for them. London Seaward 1, Cambridge United 4. So a good victory for Cambridge United. Full time has decided it doesn't want to play ball with me anymore, though. But it's a big win for Cambridge United. And then Real Bedford 1, Chatham Town 1 is the other result from that game. Just see if refreshing full time will help, or if full time's decided it just wants to completely break on me. Which it did do on Sunday as well. I could only get 3 of the tables out at 4 o'clock because full time just decided it didn't want to work properly anymore, and that was it. There was nothing anybody could do on full time. If I try closing everything down and completely loading it up again, let's see if that helps. So we are getting into that point of the season where the tables are starting to form. There we go. And so from next week, so after this weekend's games, on next week's show, I'm going to have those up and down directional arrows on there again, so you can see how teams are moving. Right, so goals for Cambridge United: Samantha Edgar, Isabella Simmons, Emma Wallace and Rosie Wadhams. The only goal for London Seaward, Catherine Long. And Real Bedford 1, Chatham Town 1. Goal for Real Bedford came to Abby Benstead in the 23rd minute. Goal for Chatham Town to Lottie Sharp, and those points were shared. So in the Division 1 South East table, after Real Bedford dropped points for the first time this season, Norwich City are now 2 points clear at the top of the table with their perfect record. Real Bedford and Actonians, though, are still hot on their heels. Chatham Town and AFC Sudbury have had decent starts with 7 points out of 12. Dulwich Hamilton, Cambridge United have got a 500 record. And then London Bees, Chesham United, London Seaward, Queen's Park Rangers with just 1 point to their name, and then Ashford Town at the bottom of the table, yet to get off the mark this season. Right, let's move into the big results then in Division 1 South West. AFC Bournemouth 9, Maidenhead United 0. A hat-trick for Erin Bloomfield, 2 for Jenna Markham and for Ellie Stripple, 1 for Lucy Cooper, 1 for Phoebe Williams, means that Bournemouth very convincingly beat Maidenhead United. Bournemouth Sports losing by 3-1 to Worthing. Worthing taking the lead on the stroke of half-time. Tierney Scott in the 45th minute in that one. They then double their advantage. In the second half, Chloe Winchester in the 52nd minute before Holly Shaw gets one back for Bournemouth Sports in the 61st. That only lasted for 7 minutes though before Katie Cooper, after coming on at half-time, restored the 2-goal advantage for Worthing, and they win by 3-1. Bristol Rovers, nice victory for them, 4-0 at home to Bridgewater United. 2 for Megan Jarvis in the 11th and the 54th. 1 for Nia Rees in the 41st and 1 for Charlotte Buxton in the 43rd. So 3-0 at half-time for Bristol Rovers. And they were able to just add to that in the second half. Moneyfields, not as convincing as perhaps they would have liked, but a solid 3 points nonetheless. Gemma Simmons in the 17th minute and 2 for Charlie Wilson-Wilton in the 30th and the 60th. Naomi Clipston with the only goal for Keynsham Town. Then we go to Portishead 2, Abingdon 2. 1 for Alana Torrington and Shannon Holloway for Portishead Town. Cara May Howes and Molly Ligo Jackson with the goals for Abingdon. And then Swindon Town beating Southampton Women's by 9-0. Annabelle Colston with 2, Libby Davis with 2, and 1 each for Holly Essen, Poppy Dearlove, Jess Graham, Gypsy Vavish, and Helena Diaz Butcher. Is that all 9? Yes, that's all 9. Just checking there weren't any missing own goals, but no, that is all 9 for Swindon Town. Southwest table then, it's Bournemouth and Swindon who are still going toe-to-toe at the top with their perfect records. Moneyfields remain just 1 win behind them. Bristol Rovers are 1 win behind Moneyfields, but they do have a game in hand. And then we drop down. Keynsham in 5th have only got 4 points, so there's already an 8-point gap between the teams at the top and the team in 5th. Which is a huge gap for them to overcome. Now that could close up slightly. Worthing have only played 2. Portishead Town have only played 1. As I said, Bristol Rovers have only played 1. So you could get into a situation where if everything was tied up, you could have a couple more teams on 9 there, just 1 point back, a couple more teams on 6s. So don't look too much into it. But Keynsham Town have played the same number of games as Bournemouth. They're currently in 5th, but they're already 8 points back from AFC Bournemouth and Swindon Town. So we are really already seeing that big split in Division 1 South West. Right, 2 cup games to go through from the last week. These were, well, one of them was last Thursday. The other one was 2 nights ago. So we'll start with the one from last Thursday, which was Chesham United 1, Watford 7. This was the determining round of the cup and plate. So Watford have gone into the cup, Chesham United have gone into the plate. So a goal for Gemma Fraser in the 12th minute was the only one for Chesham United. But then for Watford, Poppy Wilson in the 20th, Clarabella Hall, in the 25th, Maya Lazario in the 17th, missed that one out. And then in the second half, Jessie Gale, 53rd and 56th, Lashante Paul, 72nd, and Sophie McLean in the 90th. So big win for Watford against Chesham United. And then on the 10th, which was, 2 nights ago, Tuesday night, Southampton women beating Bournemouth Sports by 1-0, a 95th minute winner for Southampton women's. It really was late, shall we say, for that, and they will now host Moneyfields in the preliminary round of the Cup and the in the Cup, and Bournemouth Sports have gone into the Plate. Let's do the fixtures first, and then we will talk about the Cup draw and social media, which are the other two notes that I have made for this week. So we have Cup and Plate preliminary round games this weekend, which means that the league programme has pretty much been chopped in half. There are 19 teams that don't have a game at all, and there are plenty of teams that are playing in the Cup and the Plate, so it's probably actually cut even more than that. Northern Premier Division, just 4 games. Derby County against Liverpool Feds, 2 mid-table teams. Forest against Burnley, that's the big one at the top. If Burnley win that game, they pull level with Forest again. If Forest win that game, they're already then going to be 6 clear of Burnley with a goal difference that's already 12 better. And that's already looking like a big mountain for Burnley to climb. Wolves, you would imagine, would beat Hull City at home. I think they need to beat Hull City at home. And West Bromwich Albion are hosting Rugby Borough. So the top 5, 6, 7, the top 7 are all in action in the Northern Premier Division this weekend. So we could see a lot of movement in the Northern Premier Division. 4 games as well in the Southern Premier Division. Exeter City top of the table against Oxford United in 5th. Cheltenham Town, who are in 6th, hosting Hashtag, who are 3rd. Lewis against Gwalior United is a huge game down towards the bottom there. Can Lewis get themselves out of the relegation zone? And MK Dons against Billericay Town, again down towards the bottom. Billericay Town in mid-table, yes. MK Dons desperate for some points because particularly with that Gwalior United and Lewis game, best case scenario for MK Dons is that they draw, but if one of them wins, that's going to start to really pull them away, and then all of a sudden you're looking and the margin, yes, okay, after this weekend the most it's going to be is still 3, but at the minute it goes 2, 3, 3, so you've got a few teams you're chasing. Let's say that Gwalior win and Billericay win as well. All of a sudden it goes 2, 3, 5 because Wimbledon aren't playing, and it just looks a bit more daunting because then you've got to win 2 games to kind of properly get yourself out of the relegation zone. In the Midlands, just 3 games. Lincoln United against Northampton Town. So Northampton in 3rd, Lincoln United are down there in 8th spot at the moment. But the top 2 are playing again. Loughborough Lightning top of the table against Worcester City down in 11th. And Peterborough United in 2nd against Sutton Coldfield Town, who are currently 5th. Because the top 2 are both at home, you would think they are the most likely to win. And with Northampton Town away at Lincoln United, you'd think they probably should be winning that one as well. So the top 3 all in action in Division 1 Midlands. Will those gaps still be the same come at the end of the weekend? There are no fixtures at all in Division 1 North. Everybody, or certainly enough teams, are playing in the Cup and Plate preliminary rounds to mean that no fixtures take place in Division 1 North. So we'll go through to Division 1 South East, where there are just 2 games. Ashford Town against Cambridge United. Ashford Town at the bottom at the moment. Cambridge United in mid-table. And then Queen's Park Rangers against London Seaward. That's a huge game. 11th against 10th in that one. London and Seaward could do themselves a world of good, pulling themselves 5 points clear of the relegation zone with a win. But if Queen's Park Rangers get the win, then they themselves get out of the relegation zone and London Seaward will drop into it. So, I mean, we're 4 games into the season. This is game number 5. It's not exactly a relegation 6-pointer, but it's just one of those games where you feel it has a little bit more riding on it than usual. And there is one game in Division 1 Southwest as Swindon Town host Maidenhead. Maidenhead are down in 10th. Swindon Town with a perfect record so far, and they are at home. If they get anything from that game, they will go top above AFC Bournemouth. Right, that is the fixtures in the league and a look at the league tables, which is where I think it's probably a good idea to come in with what the situation is like on social media at the moment. It's not brilliant, I think, is the way to put this. So we had the results and everything. They come out. They're on the whole okay. There's still a couple of badges that are slightly wrong. But I don't understand what is happening with the northern, well, with all of the tables really at the moment, because it just doesn't seem to be, they don't seem to be being done properly. So if we have a look at the Northern Premier Division table, and in fact, actually, let me go back to the holding page for this. The Northern Premier Division table, and I will read this out fully. First, Nottingham. Second, Rugby Borough. Third, Burnley. Fourth, Wolverhampton. 5, West Bromwich. 6, Derby County. 7, Liverpool Feds. 8, Stoke City. 9, Hull City. 10, Halifax. 11, Stourbridge. 12, Sporting Cowser. It's fine from 6th down. What I don't understand is why Nottingham Forest are now just Nottingham, why Wolverhampton Wanderers are now just Wolverhampton, and why West Bromwich Albion are now just West Bromwich. I get notifications every time the league post. There were 3 attempts at doing the Southern Premier Division this weekend. There were 4 attempts at doing Southwest. And it's not just the Northern Premier Division that has that issue. So if you take a look at Division 1 North, Cheadle Town doesn't have stingers on the end. Fylde doesn't have the AFC at the start of theirs. Norton and Stockton Ancients are now just down as Norton. In South East, similar situation for AFC Sudbury, who are just down as Sudbury. Same in the Midlands. The goal difference is also wrong in the Midlands but that's because it was put on full time wrong. But again, Loughborough Lightning are just Loughborough, Peterborough United are just Peterborough, Northampton Town are just Northampton, but then Leafield Athletic are still fully Leafield Athletic. Sutton Coldfield Town are just Sutton Coldfield. Barnsley is spelt wrong. Boldmere St Michael's are just Boldmere. In Division 1 Southwest, everything is okay apart from Bournemouth Sports are just Bournemouth. So you've got AFC Bournemouth and Bournemouth. And then Southampton Women's is just down as Southampton. And then I think in the Southern Premier Division, as I said, there were so many. I think they did 3 attempts at getting this. So Cheltenham Town are just down as Cheltenham. Watford aren't just Watford, they're Watford FC. It's just the lack of consistency, really, that is kind of somewhat bugging me in the league posting. And then we have the draws for the Cup and Plate. Now the draw for the Plate is an interesting one because it just came out at 12:42 yesterday for the first round. We haven't played the preliminary yet, but we've had the first round draws for the Cup and the Plate. Now the plate it's okay, the plate draw. I'm really interested this weekend, and we'll look at the cup and plate preliminary round fixtures in a minute to see how these academy sides do against these tier 4 sides. In the worst case scenario, we finish the first round with 8 academy teams and 8 FAWNL teams. That's the worst case scenario. The best case scenario is that at the end of round 1 there's only 1 academy team left. But of course, because we don't know how these academy teams are going to do against FAWNL sides, it's impossible at the moment to know exactly how this is going to work. In terms of the graphics for the WNL plate, did only spot one error in it, which is quite good, which is that Leafield Athletic have been put down as Leafields Athletic. So, yeah. Right, the cup draw then, because I don't want to just turn into bashing everybody. The cup draw on the whole was okay, and I really like the idea of, well, for starters, it was a live draw, which I have been shouting about for 3 years now on this show, that the draws need to be done live, and the draw was done live. Really, really good. They had technical problems at the start, which, granted, I know from having technical problems on this show, can really throw you. So they should be commended for that. Personally, I didn't like that the draw was done on a channel that doesn't do a huge amount of FAWNL stuff. The pure reason for that being is that it came across that way. You could tell. And the reason I say that is what I would call, and again, this is personal opinion here, but it's what I would call basic things you should know that weren't known. Not knowing how to pronounce Sporting Causa, calling Worcester City Worcestershire City. I wasn't keen on that, and the social media reaction doesn't seem to be great either. If I just bring it up, because I got sent quite a few bits and pieces. So, I mean, actually, I can't read that one out. There's too much swearing in it. But it just didn't give a great. The fact the draw was done live, I can't actually read out that on social media because there's too much swearing in it. And if I bleep all the swearing out, then there's barely any of the tweet left. So the draw was fine, but it took about half an hour to do the draw. And because at the end of once every ball was pulled out, they had a piece of information about the team. And again, the information on it was fine, but it just didn't feel very natural in my opinion. And I know I'm coming at this from I'm a radio broadcaster, doing this sort of thing comes very naturally to me. But things like, for example, when the draw came out of Southampton Women's or Bournemouth Sports or Moneyfields coming out, when that one came out, it didn't, taking on Dulwich Hamlet, I believe the line was not sure how that works, and so having the actual draw was fine. I've more got a problem with afterwards. I'll take you through my evening. So it said it was 8 o'clock. Obviously didn't go live until about 10 past 8. That's fine. I had set up a graphic on my computer. I got the graphic ready. What I'd done prior to the draw is dragged all of the badges for teams that were still in the competition all onto this graphic and put them in the corner. And then I had written out Team A, Team B, left a space, Team C, Team D, left a space, Team E, Team F, etc. all the way down. Then as soon as the ball was drawn, number, can't remember what it was, but number whatever, Cheadletown Stingers, right, type Cheadletown Stingers, drag the logo. They're playing Nottingham Forest, type Nottingham Forest, drag the logo. And I did that all the way through. That meant as soon as the draw was done, the graphic was ready. I gave myself 2 or 3 minutes to check all the spellings, check the logos matched up with the teams, and I could post it. And the post was done at 8:35, bearing in mind the draw finished at about 8:32. We had to wait an hour for the draw to go out on the league website, on the league social media, and then there were 2 mistakes in it when it did go out. And that I've got a bit of a problem with, because it comes back to the thing I've been saying in the last few weeks, and there are mistakes that go out from me. Everyone makes them. I spotted one while I was doing this show, which I will fix in the edit, but I will hold my hands up and say there was a mistake, I'm fixing it before it goes out. If somebody sitting at home on their sofa with a laptop with the TV on in the background as well as the draw on their phone can put something out an hour quicker and more accurate than the league can themselves, I think there's an issue. The other thing I have asked for clarification on, which I haven't yet got, and if I do, it will be out on at W Football Chat, is why Derby County are in the southern half of the draw when teams such as Northampton Town and Worcester City, who are 60 miles further south than Derby, are in the northern half of the draw. This was always going to happen. We were going to have, once we played those determining round games, we were going to have a team in the northern half normally, so like Division 1 Midlands or Northern Prem, in the southern half. Because of these, we're going to play all the games really local in the determining round because it's midweek. You had Worcester against Cheltenham, you had Northampton against Cambridge United, you had teams in the northern half playing teams in the southern half, and those games both went the way of the teams in the north, which meant that you had more northern teams than southern teams. You had to balance it up. Get that. I don't understand, and I cannot see the reason yet why Derby are the ones chosen. I have had hashtag United fans messaging me very unhappy with the draw, that everybody gets to stay in their areas, so to speak, of north and south, yet hashtag United fans have got to go all the way up to Derby. Now, it means, of course, that come the second round, when there are 16 teams left, we will have 8 in the north and 8 in the south. Unless Derby win, in which case we will have 9 northern teams and 7 southern teams. At that point, is it Derby who go into the south again? Does it depend who else is left? Are Derby going to stay in the south all the way through until it goes national at the semi-final stage, if they're still in it at that point? I'm really curious to see what's going to happen with that draw. And I think, again, the league have sort of stood on their own foot a little bit without any explanation going out with the draw. Because I'll be honest, I was watching the draw live and the presenters of the draw didn't say why Derby were in the southern half. because why would they if they've not been told? But I finished they went through the northern half, and I again was doing my graphic, finished the northern half, and Derby was left, and I said to myself, where have I gone wrong? What have I done wrong? Why has Derby left? Where have I messed it up? Listening along. And then we get to the southern half of the draw, and they go, these are the ball numbers in the southern half of the draw. And then it was like, okay, ball number 21 is Derby County. And I was there going, why are Derby in the south when we've had Northampton in the north? Bearing in mind, Northampton is like the most southern side you could get pretty much in the northern half. Worcester are slightly further south if you draw a line straight across the country. But Northampton are kind of level with Cambridge. They're only just away from Bedford. And I was thinking, okay, is it because Derby are like close to good transport links? Well, that's not really a reason, because they're further away from like the M1 than Northampton is. No, all of the Birmingham teams, Worcester, Northampton, Rugby, all those sides are further south than Derby, and I just don't understand why Derby are in the south and Northampton are in the north. I'm really struggling with why. And even like Northampton's like even more on the M1 than Derby is. So anyway, if I get a reason for that, it will go on at W Football Chat. I've asked, I don't have a response yet. But yeah, great that the draw is done live. Love that. I think, and again, not blaming the presenters on this at all, but I think more prep needs to be done to prep the presenters and just make it go a bit smoother. At least give them the opportunity to know about the teams, know what they're doing. Even when it came to reading the piece of information out off the card about each team, I got the impression that they'd just been handed the cards with the information. They'd never seen the information before. It came across that way. Even if it's just, here's the information a few days before, and then you can rewrite it into your own dialect, because everybody speaks slightly differently. If I gave a script to somebody, I wouldn't expect them to read it out word for word. You can emphasize different words, you can drop words, you can say things in a slightly different way just to make it sound a bit more natural. So I think that was not the fault of the presenters. I think for a first live draw, it was okay. It worked. But yeah, fine tuning is needed. Right, let's finish off then with the okay, we'll start with the preliminary round. Let me just move myself out of the way. We'll move myself over there, out of the way. So, AFC Bournemouth against Portishead Town. AFC Fylde take on Chorley. Chesham United take on Tottenham Hotspur Academy. Crystal Palace Academy against Southampton Academy. Keynsham Town against Bristol Rovers. Norton and Stockton Ancients against Doncaster Rovers Bells. Norwich City against Brighton and Hove Albion Academy. Sunderland Academy against Liverpool Academy. Actonians against Abingdon United. Boldmere St Michael's take on Lincoln City. Chelsea Academy against Bristol City Academy. And Leafield Athletic against Stockport County. We have had 2 withdrawals. So Wimbledon were meant to play Arsenal Academy, and Arsenal Academy have pulled out. And Halifax were meant to play Sheffield United Academy, and they've pulled out. So we've only really got Norwich against Brighton and Chesham against Tottenham. Those are the only 2 we've got in the preliminary round that gives us some indication of where these academy teams are at in relation to our FAWNL teams. So we'll have a look at that, see how that goes. And then in the Cup just 4 games to get from 36 down to 32. Plymouth take on London Bees. Southampton women's host Moneyfields. That's in the southern half of the draw. And then the northern half, Stourbridge against Middlesbrough and York City against Huddersfield Town. So, League and Cup this weekend. Next weekend, it is all about the League. There's a couple of plate games, but it's pretty much all about the League next weekend. So that'll do it for this week's episode of the Women's Football Chat. As I say, keep your eye on at WFootball Chat on Twitter, because that's where the fixtures, the results, the tables all go on a Sunday afternoon, as well as any further information I get it when I ask any questions of the league. So that'll about do it for this week's episode. Thank you very much for watching and or listening. Don't forget you can like the video and subscribe to the channel, turn notifications on. You'll then never miss a show, and hopefully this week's show goes out without the hitches that last week's did. But thank you very much for watching and or listening to this week's episode of the Women's Football Chat. I'll be back next Thursday at 6 o'clock, and goodbye.